Welcome to IMC Live, the interactive webinar series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. We're here to help you connect with peers, sharpen your skills, and drive results in your work. I'm Alan Finnewald, Associate Content Director at Gorilla 76, the industrial marketing agency, and one of your IMC Live hosts, along with the wonderful, always capable Peyton Warren. So I'm glad you're here because today our show is all about what we have accomplished so far this year and what we think about it. So before we jump in, Peyton has a little bit of something to say about an upcoming event we've been thinking about a lot lately.
Yeah, no one's surprised to hear from me again about the Industrial Marketing Summit. We're within 90 days of the event. I cannot believe it. It's like 75 days away or something like that. And if you haven't heard about the Industrial Marketing Summit, I am so glad to share it with you because it is the absolute best event to come to for industrial marketers and anyone working in at a manufacturer, distributor, any sort of technical company. If you've got long sales cycles, complex products that you're selling, custom products that you're selling, like this is the space to be. And it's going to be March 3rd through 5th in Austin, Texas. There actually is a holiday special going on right now. So if you'd like to, if you're listening to this and it's before December 24th, which is my birthday, by the way, you can use the code Merry Marketing, no spaces, and you can get a discount on your ticket. So definitely take advantage of that. But this conference was literally made for industrial marketers, and we've got 16 sessions, three deep diving workshops with Gorilla 76, True Marketing, and Fire and Sparks, Dale Bertrand. And then the community that's going to be there is second to none. I actually have just been working on scheduling a Longhorn to join us for part of the event. So very much looking forward. Yes, a real live Longhorn. So really looking forward to it and cannot wait to see so many of you there in Austin. And with that, we'll move on into the topic of today. But if you have any questions about Industrial Marketing Summit, ping me anytime. I love talking about it. Would love to see more of you there. Today, like Alan was saying, we want to kind of look back on everything that we've covered in 2025, and we wanted to really like put it through like the critical lens of what was a flash, and then what is something that's more foundational, something that we really want to anchor ourselves to and carry forward into 2026. I think what you're seeing right now all over social media, at least what I'm seeing all over social media, is all these like trend reports or things that people think are going to be like the big thing in 2026. So we wanted to do, I guess, just a little bit of a different take on that and look back. So we covered a lot in our 22 episodes of this year. But first and foremost, I think we need to define like what we're saying when we say flash and foundation. And so when I'm saying flash, I'm thinking things that have they're very like short-lived, short term, and there's like limited gains with them. Think trendy, you might be able to ride a wave for a minute, but that wave will pass. And if you don't have something stronger that you're anchored to, foundational, then your strategy will not be as rock solid as you want it to be and could kind of crumble away. So foundation, when we're talking about that, we're talking about things that have long-term value, lasting impact. They might take a little bit more thought and intentionality to set up, but also the returns on them can pay lots of like dividends over time.
Yeah.
So that's really what we're thinking when we say flash and foundation. And yeah, we'll share what we think those items are. And then what we'll do is we'll dive into any specifics on those topics. If you have like as I were like running through this list and you have something you're like, I really want to make sure that we talk about this today, just drop it in the chat. And this is going to be a very Alan and I want this to be a very conversational episode, right, Alan?
Yeah, we want everyone to tell us what they think is here for a good time and what is here for a long time. So audience participation is greatly encouraged.
Yes. So first things first, I'm gonna actually I made a slide. This is a webinar where we don't normally have slides, so I'm just gonna share, maybe turn this on, view slideshow, and okay, so here are the items that we think are flashy. Acting like you know AEO, answer engine optimization, also known as GEO sometimes. Meme culture, short attention span assumptions, reliance on demand capture. What do we think is foundational? Full funnel marketing. There's a lot in this one. I think we should definitely talk about that. Investment in personal brands, repurposing your assets, not necessarily just marketing content. Fact checking, accuracy, conversion pathways, internal marketing, and content that delights. So, like I said, we have covered a lot in 22 episodes this year. And I think I'll pump it over to Alan because I think we should start in like the flash of the pan.
Mhm.
Um, and one that I know we want to talk about for sure is like that answer engine optimization because it obviously is going to be important to be thinking about how you're showing up in like the chat GBTs of the world. But I think a lot of people are saying they know how to do it right now and they don't necessarily know how to do it. So, Alan, I'm just going to tee it up to you to talk about that one, why we think it's really flashy right now.
Yeah, and another quick preface, but a lot of the things that maybe are in the Flash have a relationship with things that are in the foundation. So there are things that are flashy that can be done well enough to make them foundational. I know someone mentioned in the chat that they're making memes right now, and you can make memes in a foundational way, but reliance on memes in the absence of an actual message is more what I think we're talking about specifically there.
Hmm.
Krister, to your comment there. So it doesn't mean that you need to be too worried about the fact that you made some memes. Um, yeah, I'm sure it is fantastic.
No, I want to hear more about how people are using memes because also welcome to like please come at me a little bit today on these ideas.
yeah, please challenge all of Peyton's assumptions, none of mine though.
Yeah, so let's start with AEO.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is all of the think leaders, thought leaders that say they have the answer to this emerging technology and act as if they can tell you what is going to happen for the next 3, 4 years when we have all experienced these kind of bubblish moments where everyone tries to make a quick buck on what they think is going to happen when very few people really know what this technology is going to be like down the road. So I know I've heard a lot about it. I'm sure all of you have. We've talked about it, perhaps some on the show even. So does anyone out there have like a thing that they've heard like this is a new rule that has already been put into question, or maybe you're not even sure what to think about yet, in the audience?
And feel free to unmute and just join today. But while folks are like considering that, the one thing that comes to mind for me, Alan, like when you ask that question, is I think that what we're seeing is a lot of like these like simple tricks that to me are eventually going to become what we know in SEO as black hat tactics. So like something that would be black hat, meaning like a negative, it's going to like ding your credit basically with these search engines, is when you start doing like keyword stuffing. And I've seen a lot of folks do like talking about creating like specific pages for the LLM, these large language models. And to me, I feel like that is borderline black hat. And maybe my take on that won't age well. But it is a brand new technology. It's a new frontier. But ultimately, the way that these large language models are working is they're trying to be more and more human. And I think like the same is always going to be true. Like you got to make your content for the person, and it needs to be helpful. And yes, you can be thinking about the structure of the page like we do for any content that we create with like thoughtful headings and, snippets and things like that. But, if you're just stuffing words in there or trying to like hide instructions for the LLM and like tell it how to respond to things, I think eventually you're going to get punished for that sort of thing sooner rather than later. That's my take.
Hmm. Yeah, you had a great comment in the chat. Would you like to come on and talk about it?
Sure. Let me see. Oh, there you go. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Nick, I was thinking the old days when we needed to think about the keywords, and that was everything for SEO. But in the last couple, maybe even several years, I thought that people said, if you keep making content your target audience wants to consume, you actually don't need to worry about a lot of little technical things about SEO. And I think that is exactly the same for AEO. You have to create what your audience wants, and they're going to consume it where they want to consume it and how they want to consume it. And in a way, having AI kind of getting rid of complicated technical side of SEO or AEO, I think is a good thing. If we create the right thing, people will find it more easily because of AI.
Yeah,
That's my take.
I agree wholeheartedly. Like I've heard people say, well, if you have more information that maybe you don't think works on the page, but you want the AI to be able to tell people about, then maybe you can make it to where only the AI can read it. But then that's probably a shortcoming for your blog and the information you put out. Like, okay, well, if you have more information, how can you package it in a way that someone can read it and find it useful? Maybe you're just kind of skipping a step when you jump to this is just for the AI.
Hmm.
And all those little techniques or tricks, they're not gonna really last long if your content is not what people want.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. It will all like eventually just like crumble in on itself
Mm.
if the content isn't actually quality. So true.
If it's AI slop, right?
Yeah, if it's AI
People are gonna
slop.
bounce in a second. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, that's funny too. You wonder there's going to be almost a cannibalization over time if people just use AI to make their content, and then the AI is using that content to generate its answers. You wonder how far that rabbit hole can go.
And I
The AI
think
is
like
eating itself.
Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
And Joel, I know that you also kind of disagreed slightly. You wouldn't call it black hat. Maybe I'm a little hyperbolic with with black hat, but feel free to jump into the conversation too if you want. I think like when one of the things that was on the foundational list, and I kind of want to bring this up here, is we talked about fact checking. And I think like that just is going to become so important because we are all going to be using most of us, I think, are going to be using LLMs to help us with content generation or research or whatever. And like, I just saw a news article this week of somebody who's like using ChatGPT to look up the title times, and they ended up getting stuck on like this little island because like they just trusted what ChatGPT was like spouting off to them, and so they were like, oh, yeah, it's safe for us to walk across and we'll be on this island and we'll be able to get back. Well, they didn't. And they had to be rescued because they just like didn't verify what was coming in or what ChatGPT was telling them. And this can be happening with anything that you create, even if you have a custom GPT or something like that. Like there are these tools hallucinate, and they also use what I've seen them call illustrations. So they like will use examples to help illustrate a point. But it's not an actual like real example. So they'll cite a stat And then you go back and you ask it, and you're like, okay, where'd you get this stat from? And it's like, oh, actually, I just thought that would be helpful.
It
So
takes
like,
artistic leaps, let's say.
yeah, yeah. And so I don't think like if we think that we can control exactly how you're going to show up in a chat between someone who is a potential prospect of yours and and the chat GPT or Gemini or whatever LLM they're using, I think we're mistaken. But that's where it becomes really, really important to make sure that your content is still like very, very accurate. Your engineers will love you for it. It's going to enhance your relationship with them. And if you are using AEO, don't just phone it in. Like, or if you are using an LLM, don't just phone it in and skip that verification step. That's going to be really important. Um, Going forward into 2026.
Yeah, another thing we talked about related to this is the importance of being linked in news sources or other third party, objective as possible sources that these language models will use as a sign that you are legit. So it almost takes me back to the idea of like cross-linking and stuff like that, but hopefully without all the seedy backdoor part of that. I would think that this would actually be better at being able to identify when that kind of stuff was going on, as opposed to just the New York Times thinks that you're the best source to talk about this thing, so they like to you. So yeah, I don't know if anyone has been trying to add that kind of thing to their strategy with AI coming in or not. That's something we've been thinking about.
So should we move to the next flashy topic, the one that's coming up in the chat? And Krister, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If you want to, oh yes, yes, woo. If you want to unmute and tell us about your meme creations, that would be great. I think just to share a little bit more context, when we're saying meme culture, Alan, like you gave a little preface of this, but like we're talking about memes that are completely out of context, or if you're just like basically
Yeah.
not, you're just trying to like jump on the bandwagon and it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're
Um,
relying on the trend to gain attention without adding any value with what you're doing.
mhm. Yes. So like I said at the very beginning, like trends are only going to get you so far. And the meme, honestly, that Krister that you just posted in the chat here is so spot on because this meme's been around forever, right? It's for the folks who are just listening, it's the one where there's like a girl walking in the foreground and there's the couple walking like away from them and the man like is turning around like, "Ooh, who's that? Who's that new hot thing?" And Krister has some really funny contextual information on there about like why a design engineer, which I'm assuming is probably your prospect or the person who would be
Mhm.
buying your product.
Correct.
Yeah, so tell us more about like why this is working for you guys.
Sure. So this is Carly. She's the designer
Oh,
behind
hey,
this, and
Carly.
so this is our first foray into Reddit. So we wanted to do something a little cheeky and fun, just to kind of go through or kind of hit the engineers on Reddit. So as I said, this is for our priority ship program, which shortens the lead time for a simplified conveyor system, which is what MK North America does. So we used this as kind of, I mean, because it fits perfect. And as I said, we just launched it 2 days ago, so I don't really have any metrics or feedback about it. But again, just trying to find new and innovative ways, that aren't industry pubs or something different to attract people to our company, along with our priority ship program.
Yeah, and this will age a lot better than if it was completely detached from anything other than a trend. And I like that it is an older meme that, a lot of people are going to recognize and has,
Correct.
it's almost like you're not jumping on the trend, you're revitalizing something.
Right. No 6.7s or anything, but
Yeah, thank God.
I mean, the
I don't
beauty
think
of
we're
it
allowed
is,
to do
though,
that. We're too
the
old.
beauty of it is that that image was available from Adobe stock, so it's not as if I mean, we're using it illegally, even though it's a universal meme. But we got it from Adobe stock, so we were able to just use the picture and have a high-res version to work with. So yeah, like I said, we're trying to do things different here. Carly and I have both been here about a year, so we're trying to shake things up a little bit and do it a little different with the fun memes.
I just saw someone say they couldn't see the image, so hopefully you can see it now. I just downloaded it right here. But yeah, I think like the big point here, because I love that you guys are doing this. I think like what Alan and I are saying is like you have to, and this is something that came up in one of our episodes, Content That Delights with Rose Hansen from earlier this year, which I know Sarah Olson, that was one of your very favorite episodes. So I'm glad we get to talk about it here. But one of the things that like Rose shared there in that conversation was, you need to like humor can be like super, super powerful whenever it is like relevant and it's like this like inside joke with your customers. So like this right here, this example to me is like this shipping in 10 days. Design engineers are like, I need it now. It's just like you start to see what can like I don't know, make them kind of like chuckle a little bit. And it's like this intimacy that you can share in like a digital platform
Yeah.
that is just delightful.
And you cover all the ad fundamentals here. Design engineers, boom. First thing you read, hey, that's me. I'm in the target audience. I know that. Long wait time. That's my main pain point. I hate that. Conveyor system. Oh, that's the thing I need to buy. Shipping in 10 days. That's the thing that is attractive about this. Like all your bases are here. If this was in a sentence, it would make just as much sense, but you wouldn't have near as much effect with the cultural context link.
Yeah. So memes can be done well. And also I do want to like applaud you, Krister, on the like it being Adobe stock because man, I have wanted to do that Spider-Man meme so many times where like people are like, oh, it's your fault, your fault, your fault. And I cannot find that one in anywhere where it's not like I can't use it in paid.
I
We can do
love
it
that one. I
organically.
have a good one that's like marketing, sales. You didn't close on the leads. The leads weren't good. I mean, they're funny. I love the
Yeah.
Spider-Man ones.
They're super funny. And it's really fair game to use them organically. When you're using them in paid, you do have to be cautious about like the copyright and stuff like that. So that's smart that you pulled it from stock.
I actually just used the Spider-Man one in a presentation to all of our sales reps. So
Yeah, and hey, that goes to another one of our foundational topics, which was like internal marketing. And it's like, you got to think about ways to like make things resonate with your internal team too. They're one of your audiences that you are trying to market to, and like you need to be like a champion for your programs and like what you're doing and make sure that they are on the same page with that. But yeah, I can pull back up the screen. So we've talked about two of our flashy things, like acting like AEO, and then meme culture a little bit here. Um, we should we talk about some foundational things, Alan? Maybe get into full funnel marketing.
It sounds like a good place to start.
That's a big one. So yeah, what do we mean when we're saying full funnel marketing? Well, I think this is such a great place to start when you're looking at your 2026 strategy is like, how are you, how are you touching like each like part of your TAM? So not everybody is in buy mode right now. One of the flashy things, as we said, reliance on demand capture. If you think that you can continually add revenue by just only targeting that like 1 to 3% of your total addressable market that is in buy mode right now, you're going to hit a ceiling, and so you need to be thinking about how are you building awareness around your brand, around your products, and part of that is a demand generation strategy. So thinking about you know continuous education and thought leadership to the other 97 to 99% of your TAM that's
Yeah.
not currently in buy mode.
Yeah.
Um,
For example, we got a client right now that's dealing with a situation where they were a very legacy product. Everyone knew who they were. They were the go-to thing. And so they were only concerned with that immediate demand of filling those orders as they came in, whereas their competitors were slowly taking away some of their future market by marketing to end users before they were going to need to influence a buying decision, and that slowly led to them eating away at that dominance. And so we're trying to find a way to go back to basics with them and kind of outdo or undo that thing that's happened, over so many years. So that's just one example of why you can't focus just on immediate demand. Like even if you are a very well-established brand.
Mm-hmm. It's just going to eventually like fall off. And if you want to keep momentum, you want to keep like growth, you need to be thinking about, okay, what are the other like levers that you can be pulling to bring people in to your marketing and continue to engage with them. So we mentioned demand capture, still worth thinking about. It's just over reliance on that. We mentioned demand gen. So consistent education without the expectation that they're going to be buying right now, but you're just getting in front of them so that they know that you exist. Lead gen. This is something that we've talked about a lot more in on this show in 2025 than in years past. And lead gen is where you are pushing out a specific like call to action. So I think like the most traditional way that you see this is something like a white paper download. But it doesn't just have to be a white paper download. And I think at Gorilla, we have our own opinions about white paper downloads and things like that. It's not necessarily always your best tactic to gate things just for the sake of getting an email. But when we're thinking about full funnel marketing programs, like if you have a lead gen motion and you have a nurture motion, what you're actually going to be doing with those leads after they come in to continue to like educate them and build demand for your product in email or a custom like retargeting list in LinkedIn for paid, then I think it's really smart to like add that layer to your program too. The other, I guess, like layers that I'd be thinking about with like a full funnel program is customer experience. This is all like there's like so many levels of like different touches where we interact with our customers, and it's not just at like the point of sale. Um, we need to be thinking about like, okay, one example that comes to mind is even like from Fullerton Tool. I was just talking about them yesterday. Their like 404 page is just something that like kind of like has like a little bit of like humor to it and talks about the brand in a fun way. So like you just need to be thinking about what is every single like touch point that you have with a customer. Is there something that you can do to like enhance that and like further your message? And
Mhm.
then one that I really love, and then I'll stop talking, is also like the community angle. So this is not just like, you know, you don't just have to like build your own community, but I think that's a huge win for a lot of people. Look at uh, Lennon, who we've talked about on this show, Julie Runez. They've built the Lennon Lab up there in Vermont, and it's a whole hub now of where their customers can gather, like physical hub, and where folks can like prototype and test things together. So they've like built a community, but this can also be something where you just like insert yourself in community. You all have inserted yourself in the Industrial Marketing Live community. I think like that's a really smart thing because these are people here. This is a network around you who you could potentially be working with and learning from. But you could be doing that with your customers as well. Krister mentioned Reddit earlier. I know a lot more people are getting into Reddit these days, but the subreddits where you're just like engaging with folks and thinking about like, okay, how can I be connecting with my customers, my prospects in a way that's very like organic and natural and friendly, because that all builds credibility too. But yeah, there's more to say
Yeah.
there, but I've been rambling for a minute.
Oh, well, I'll ramble for a little bit for you, Peyton. But yeah, I think Madeline shared an article in the chat from Marketing Science about how 95% of the B2B buying process happens outside of the actual sales conversation. And that is a great point to make. I want to add one additional thought, and I'm not sure if this article mentions it, but due to the replicability crisis of social science, I was reading an article the other day that talked about how, yes, that is the case, but something that we need to be keeping in mind is that if it is a very complex product with a very high dollar sign, a lot of buyers will reach out to a salesperson initially just to get an idea of what is actually possible in that space, and then do their own research, and then come back to whichever person that has convinced them on their based on their content marketing or whatever to come back. But there's probably still a lot of value in being that first touch point, the first person who helps spell things out for them. So early CTAs that try to start conversations even before a complete buying process has happened outside of you all is still important to keep in mind. I probably explained that very poorly, but hopefully that made some sense. Outside of
Well,
that, go on. What was that?
oh, I was just gonna say, like, this is like one of my very favorite episodes this year, and Dale, I will never stop talking about this. As whenever you came on to talk about pricing curiosity, and like, it. Whenever we were preparing for that episode, and we just had like it. It's so funny because like we think about how big of an ask it is to say buy now or request a quote. And a lot of what we talked about on the show with you was, it doesn't always have to be that big ask. It can just be like get pricing instead of, like lock it in like right now, sort of thing, and just differing CTAs. But Dale, I saw you unmute. I'd love to get your revitalized take on CTAs and things
Yeah,
today.
I was kind of taking a different tact on it, and that is the article talks about the 95-5 or whatever, the a certain percentage of people are in the market. But what I've constantly heard over the years, and I came from the sales side, so I'm more on the sales side, and where I think marketers could do themselves justice on conveying their value is to, and I'm kind of trying to set up a slide for this, but if a company sells, let's say 50 million, then that means there's probably 100 million in the sales funnel. That means there's 200 million in the group of people that's starting to come in, and there's probably 10 times that of the total market. So I think a lot of times marketing tries to take a percentage of the 50 million and say we got 50% of that, so our value is 25 million. When in fact, take that 50 million and multiply by 10, and that's really the value that marketing has created, because you're not seeing all that business in market right now. You're going to see it in the future. And to say that marketing is a percentage of the total revenue is really shortchanging the thing. That's what I always tell a CEO is that to sell 50 million, how much has to be in the pipeline? And they'll tell you 3 or 4 times that, because it doesn't close, deals fall out. Sales only gets the number that they sell, but marketing is probably generating 10 times that, and sales himself is probably generating 10 times that. So together, it's probably a multiple of 20.
Yeah, great point. Yeah, thank you for that, Dale.
Okay.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
definitely shortchange ourselves, I think, in our reporting by like constantly making ourselves just a percentage of what sales. Like we're trying to talk about the attribution story so much of like
Right.
what's closed, and like that.
I think take a note from a salesperson would never say my value is half of what we generate. They would never say that. They were always going to go way over on the other end. And uh, so maybe just the way that we approach the language of it might help. So
hmm Yeah. And some things go beyond the numbers you have right now, and maybe, more visible down the line. But there's value in also to make another point on the full funnel marketing in building your own culture as a company. We talked about the internal marketing and making your employees brand champions. And one of the easiest way to do that is to be able to build a culture within your company that people take pride in, that they enjoy, and that they want to celebrate outwardly to people they talk to what they're doing on social media. And I think we've talked a little bit about that over the year, the importance of building internal culture and how marketing can help that. I know, for example, there was the company mascot that we talked about that I feel like is just a fun thing to have associated with you, that you might not think of showing up in the numbers. But I'm sure there's a lot of other things that people are doing to try to boost their internal culture and make people have a better sense of the value of their company and their work and what they're doing in the community. If anyone has anything to talk about that, I'd definitely love to hear about that.
Yeah, that whole conversation reminds me of when we had Kelly Battaglini on, who was searching for her next role and landed her next role. So very happy for Kelly. And we talked about product marketing with her, and she talked a lot about how you need to like motivate, the marketer, you need to motivate the sales team, but a lot of that does come down to like the internal culture of just like friendly competition and things like that. And you can do the same thing with your distributors, so it's just like a really nice way to think about how to make things a little bit more fun, and create a community inside your company that folks want to be like part of, and like contributing to like the greater mission of, bringing in those leads, bringing in the revenue dollars, things like that.
Also helps that everyone's on the same page with what you're doing. Like if you do a rebrand, but no one in the company knows you did the rebrand and everyone's still sending out the old letterhead, it doesn't do much good. But if you have a rebrand party where everyone gets together and celebrates the cool brand, you're probably going to have a lot more people realize, oh, I should probably, do something about this because they already gave me a free drink and some pretzels for it.
So one other foundational thing I'd like to talk about today before we've touched on it just a little bit, but like these conversion pathways. And Alan, I don't know that we necessarily like said, oh, we're going to talk about this today, but I'm just like on a kick with it right now because one of the projects that I'm working on in my capacity as marketing director at Gorilla 76 is we are going to launch a new website next year. And we've been saying that for years. It's always been like pushed down the list in terms of priority, but we are going to launch a new website next year. And so I've been really thinking intentionally about these conversion pathways. And when we're talking about conversion pathways, this does get back to a little bit of that conversation of like rethinking the CTAs that you're asking for. But I also think it gets into this conversation around audience. And you think about like, why are folks coming to your website, or why are they coming to your social media page? Like, how are they getting to you? What's their purpose for being there? And then how can you enhance their experience by giving them relevant and helpful, links to click through, to better like navigate your website, to help like build their understanding of your products, your services, everything that you have available. I think like if you do a quick audit of your website and you see that everywhere that you have the opportunity to place a CTA, it's simply a contact us now, contact us now, contact us now. I think you're leaving a lot on the table because it could very well be, so like going back to the Gorilla example, but a lot of our clients also have very built out like learning centers, resource centers on their website where they produce or we help them produce thought leadership content around their products and their services and the industries, the applications that they work with. And if someone comes in to your website, like their first page scene is a blog article, is a blog about how something works. Why they're on your website is a very different reason than if they just landed on your homepage because they're looking for a partner to do X. But if they're coming because they're just doing research and they're info gathering, they get to your blog and the first CTA they see is a slap in the face of like, talk to us now. It's it's like, is that really the best experience for someone? I'm not saying you don't want to give them an opportunity, but chances are you have a contact us button that's following them down the page because it's in your main navigation. Um, so I would be thinking about what are these pathways that you want folks to be taking through your website to continue to like dig a little bit deeper on the topic that they're already interested in. You see this a lot. Some websites have it built in where it's like read more about X, and it's like an article that's tagged in a similar vein. It's like, oh, you're reading about this case study? Check out this other case study where we did this. Instead of just constantly saying, contact us. So I'm just feeling like I'm a little bit on a soapbox about that lately. But that's something that I think we all could do better. And I think from the AEO front and the SEO front, when we are better at interlinking on our website, it gives these crawlers a lot more context into the type of content that's relevant and why. I think all of that it's like just an SEO best practice too, that I think we should all continue to like, maybe just make sure that we're actually following. Because I think that is a best practice for a reason that's kind of been left in the dust a little bit.
It's kind of funny if the biggest thing out of AEO is it's making everyone get back to the fundamentals of SEO.
Yep. And I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense though, because how are these large language models finding content? Well, they're crawling search engines for the most part. Yeah. Okay. I feel like I've rambled a lot today, but we've also had a lot of folks chime in. Aya, Dale, Krister. Yeah, it was so great to hear from everyone. I can, anything else, Alan, that you want to mention before we wrap?
I think I'm ready to wrap if you are.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, we just want to say thank you for joining us on the show today and like this year. We're going to continue to post these on the Manufacturing Marketer podcast, which you can download anywhere that you get your podcasts. So Spotify, Apple Pods, things like that. And we hope that this year's been valuable for you. And we are in the process of setting our topics for Q1 2026. And we are also setting the dates for Q1 2026. The show for next year, the very first one, is going to be on January 22nd, which is actually the fourth Thursday in January. But we are going to be continuing to meet on the first and third Thursdays at 10 a.m. I'm just going to grab this link for you guys. If you do want to go ahead and like get that on your calendar, here's the Zoom link for hopefully that works. For 2026. But we're also going to be posting that all in the Industrial Marketing Collective. So I know, like, wow, a whole month until we're going to see each other again. No, you can hang out with us anytime in Industrial Marketing Collective. Visit industrialmarketingcollective.com to join that community, or you can reach out to Alan and myself, and we would be glad to get you access. We do a little extra vetting just to make sure that the folks that are getting in are actually in the manufacturing and like engineering space. But we would love to see you there and continue discussions as we go. I would love to hear what folks are doing for 2026 and their strategies. And and we always take content ideas. And that's about it, I think. So hope everyone has a very, very fruitful year end. And we'll see you in 2026, eh?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Bye, everyone.